thank you for being here. I think, Robert, we have a short little clip, and we want to show you this, and then we'll get on with our story.
I was coming to the end of a long, long walk when a man crawled out of a cardboard box under the East Street Bridge, followed me onto it. I went out halfway across with that homeless shadow tagging along, so I dug for some change. Wouldn't need it anyway. He took it looking just a bit ashamed. He said, you know, I haven't always been this way. I've had my moments, days in the sun moments. I was second to none moments when I knew I did what I thought I couldn't do. Like that plane ride coming home from the war that summer. My son was born, memories like a coat so warm the cold wind can't get through. Looking at me now, you might not know it, but I've had my moments. I stood there trying to find my nerve, wondered if a single soul on earth would care at all. Miss me when I'm gone. That old man just kept hanging around, looking at me, looking down. I think he recognized that look in my eyes. Standing with him there, I felt ashamed. I said, you know, I haven't always been this way. I've had my moments, days in the sun moments. I was second to none moments when I knew I did what I thought I couldn't do. Like the day I walked away from the wine for a woman who became my wife in love that when it was right could always see me through. Looking at me now, you might not know it. I've had my moments. I know somewhere around a trash can fire tonight, that old man tells his story one more time. He says, I've had my moments, days in the sun moments. I was second to none moments when I knew I did what I thought I couldn't do. Like that cool night on the East Street Bridge when a young man almost ended it. I was right there, wasn't scared to be my held to pull it true. Looking at me now, you might not know it. Oh, looking at me now, you might not know it. I've had my moments. I've had my moments. I've had my moments. I've had my moments.
I've had my moments. I have. In the beginning, I had a wonderful wife, 2 beautiful children, nice home, good job, and I allowed alcohol to destroy every bit of that. And I can't help but think back on those days. And also this afternoon, when we were on the way over here, I noticed it was pouring down rain, and I thought back about the days I was on the street, get wet, soaking wet, everything's wet, my feet's wet, my socks are wet, and I'm trying to find somewhere to just get out of the rain and stay dry. But there wasn't anywhere to go. I remember back trying to get into shelters, waiting in line just to get a hot cup of soup, maybe get a bunk that night, or a cot. And when you get inside, you have to learn how to deal with everybody else in there, but their own problems. But now I just like to share our story with you.
July 24th, 1999. I have a large complex in San Diego. I was walking, and I see one of my dumpsters, and I see somebody defecate in front of them. I had to clean up the mess. I was angry. The next day, driving in, July 25th, as I'm walking the property again, I notice a homeless man standing in front of my dumpster. I walk over to him to confront him, and I say, "Hey, you, get out of here. I'm calling the police. You understand that?" He goes, "But I'm a veteran." He said, "I don't care if you're a veterinarian. I want you out right now." Well, inside the dumpster was another homeless man who jumped out with his angry face. Scared the heck out of me. But I got him to leave, and I felt pretty good about it. As they went back into their shopping cart, started moving, I started walking, and all of a sudden I reflected on myself. Here I am in jeans, t-shirt, not much different than a homeless guy, but I said, maybe but for the grace of God go I, but hey, that's his problem, not mine. So I started walking to my office. Right across the street was an older gentleman named Mr. Hawkins, 90 years old. Called everybody over, everybody was buddy to him. So I came over there and I sat in front of his garage on his lounge chair. And I started telling him how I cleaned up the neighborhood. Thinking, wow, he'll feel great about that. He put his finger in my face and said, "Hey, you, Jesus won't like you. You're going to change your ways. You understand that, boy? You're going to hire those men. I know them." And I go, whoa. So I started walking, and I saw where the other homeless went. And I went over there, and I offered them a job.
They heard your side.
Okay.
Okay, now let me tell you my side. It's a little different. I get up first thing in the morning. I'm living behind the Bond grocery store. And just so particular that morning, I'm alcoholic, and by this time in my life, I'm having seizures and withdrawals. And I'm a really sick man. And I made arrangements for my friend Donnie to come over that morning and meet me, and we're going to camera run. So he shows up, and everything's going good. I told Donnie, I said, "I'm really sick. So let's just make a short camera run and get some money so we can sit down and get something to drink and take a break because I'm sick." And it's going good. Then we go through the first complex, no problem. We get to the second one, Mary's complex. And then I'm in the dumpster on my knees, tearing through this trash and stinking garbage, just looking for anything, trash, bottles, cans that I could recycle. And I hear this cussing and yelling at my friend, Donnie. And I jump up and I look, and it's this man right here. I didn't know who the hell it was. And I told Donnie, I said, "Donnie, let's just go and get out of here, because I don't want to put up with this man." So we left. And then we go to it over there, and then he offers us a job. And then, you know what? Automatically I think, what's going on here? This man just kicked us out of this complex, threatened to call the cops on us. Now he's offering us a job. We gladly accepted the job. And we went to work for him. And we worked like 8 weeks.
8 incredible weeks. When they came there to my door, I said, wow, I don't know what I got to have them do. But then I decided, I have these old rickety fences. I asked them, "Hey, do you know how to build fences?" And they said, "Yeah." I said, "Do you need gloves?" They said, "No, we're men." So for 8 weeks, they did this incredible job. And I got to know them no longer as bums. but as human beings, which was amazing to me. However, Donnie was an incredible person. I got to know his mom. He was a local guy from La Mesa. Rufus, on the other hand, we never got along.
You know, like I said, the man comes up, you know, after he's always threatened to call the cops on us and offer us a job. You know what? I didn't like him. I didn't trust him because when I lived on the street, you know, if anything happens, the first thing you do is you put up a defense. You know, you put up a wall. And I didn't trust this man. And I didn't know what he was up to, but I always thought, well, you know, there's something going on here. So when I had to talk to him or anything, Donnie and I would talk, discuss what was going on with ourselves. And I tell Donnie, I said, well, you go talk to him. And that's the way it went.
So 8 weeks went by, and then all of a sudden I didn't have that much more work left. So I said to Rufus and I said to Donnie, I said, listen, come back now and then, but you know, I just have to let you go right now. I don't have that much more work. So.
Well, you know, as I said, you know, we worked 8 weeks. We've done a good job. I know we've done a good job, and he was happy with it. And no more work. So we went on about our ways. And I went back over to the place where I lived at, behind the Bonds, you know, shopping store. And so the next morning I got up on my own by myself, and I made a cannon run, you know, work. And it's pretty hard work, you know, dumping in those nasty dumpsters. And I made that route that day, and I made, I think, like $10. And my first stop was the liquor store. I went by the liquor store, and I bought me a bottle of vodka, and I bought me some cigarettes. And I was by myself, so I just hung out by myself and enjoyed the day. Actually, it was a nice day. And late in the evening, about dusk dark, I was heading back to my little place, my little home. I came around the corner, and here comes this car drives up. And I hear this guy, hey. And he waves me over. He says, are you Rufus? I said, yeah. He said, well, I hear you get drunk and fall down a lot. You know, and I did. I was sloppy drunk. I'd wake up in the morning with scratches on my face. And then he says, we want to make $5. And I was like, you know, what I have to do? And he said, well, you know, run in these milk crates and knock them all down. And I did. And he asked me to do it again. He said, this time run faster and knock them all down. So it seemed harmless enough to me, and $5 to me was a lot of money, you know, for me, you know, making $10 a day, if that was good. But right now I want to show you how these stunts progressed.
when I see that, I always have to take a deep breath because it's so disturbing. But I always ask Rufus, how did you get to that place? How did this all begin? That you were homeless, that you were an alcoholic, and this is his story.
Well, in the beginning, when I was of age, I got married at 18, and as we began having children, my wife and I, my mother, our child, one of them had, I don't know, it's what I call from the South, the colic, where they have stomach trouble and they cry. And my mother told me one time that she'd give me beer in the baby bottle. I'm not sure if it was for that particular thing or teething or whatever. I don't know if that had any effect to me or not, but in my childhood, teenager, I was a loner. I mean, my parents were alcoholics. They weren't bad. I mean, we always had a warm bed to sleep in, nice clothes, food on the table. There was no love shown in our family. You was never held and said, I love you, hugged you. So I was pretty much a loner. And I began hanging out with older men. One in particular, I found a spot behind a liquor store where the older guys would go in and buy their liquor and go out back. And I began to go out back with them, and eventually, they would offer me liquor. And at 14 years old, I started drinking nearly every day. By 15, I look back now, and I was alcoholic. So that alcohol carried on through me with my life, and it destroyed all my marriages. When I was 18 years old, well, married 7 years and just drinking all the time. I got a good job, and I was working overtime. And I began, hang out at bars till closing time. And, construction work, after a working day, you pop up the trunk, and here comes the cooler out. Well, that was great. When I was 18 years old, like I said, I got married. We had 2 children, and my wife put up with that as long as she could. And the alcohol destroyed it. And when I was 26 years old, divorced, I said, I was having so much problem in my neighborhood, my hometown, drinking, trying to see my children, going to jail. So I decided I wanted to change my life. I joined the military. And that was great. I wanted to join the military and make a career in the military, to become an electrician, and join the, Army. And on basic training, things were going good. And then one weekend it rained and rained and rained so heavy. The obstacle course looked like a jungle and swamp. And so it happens that day I made it through all the course, had one obstacle left, that was a vertical ladder. I climbed up and over the ladder. And my guys that was in the military with me, they were like 17, 18 years old. I'm 26, they called me old man. So I was standing on the last step, and I cheered with them, and I happened to fall, and I broke this elbow. So eventually I was medically honorably discharged. And the alcohol just really took over. And when I got back home to try that again, nothing had changed. Things had gotten worse. And I just progressively drink harder.
And then all of a sudden, Rufus ends up in San Diego, homeless, without money. Living in the streets are pretty tough. It's hard for me to even imagine living on the streets as long as he did, 23 years. However, during this time, a lot of the veterans, what they like to do is go to the VA hospital. We're fortunate to have the VA hospital here in La Jolla. So on this particular rainy day, Rufus decided to go up to the VA hospital, meet his comrades, maybe have a smoke, talk to them, and then he meets his best friend.
I met Donnie, my best friend. He was a combat vet, Vietnam, and what's kind of funny about Donnie, we were talking about the Army and all that, and I told him, I said, well, I'm retired. And he said, retired? He said, you only spent less than a year in the Army and you retired. I said, yeah. And he asked me what happened, and I told him. And he told me, he said, well, Rufus, it looks like you were just like a broken down tank. They couldn't fix you and they couldn't use you, so they retired you. So I met with Donnie and we talked a lot, and I began telling him how it was living downtown San Diego. I told him that I got robbed, I had a knife put in my throat, I had a pistol put in my face, and I said, I want to move out to La Mesa. And he said, fine, come on out to La Mesa. And I moved out to La Mesa with him, and we started living in a baseball dugout. And that was great. We could leave our clothes there and our backpacks there during the daytime, and everything was safe. And then, you know, wintertime come in, school started, and we had to find places to move. And so I moved over to that place I was telling you about, behind the Vaughn store. And Donnie came over, and that's how we began doing our work.
So now all of a sudden, when I was with Rufus and Donnie, when they were working with me, I gave them my business card, and I told them, if you're ever in harm's way, call me. So one day I'm driving by this gas station, I needed gas, and then I looked to the right of me, and my gosh, there's the two homeless guys that were working me for 8 weeks. So I walked over to them, and all of a sudden, I look, and I go, whoa, what is that? On his forehead, which was Donnie, was a bump fights with a beer can with colored ink, huge tattoo. And I said, what happened? So then he explained to me about bump fights and these horrific things. So I said to Rufus and Donnie, I said, listen, I'm going to get you the best law firm I can get you. This law firm in Santa Monica, Green, Brulé, Pancho, Wheeler, and I called this attorney, Curtis Brown Green, and talked to Brown, and I said, listen, will you represent us? Rufus and Donnie, and they go, yeah, absolutely, but make sure you have control of these guys after I told them the story. So I scheduled an appointment for 5 days, and unfortunately, Rufus and Donnie never showed up. Want to tell why?
Well, you know, we never showed up. Ryan, at one time, I didn't know at the time, but there was an investigation going on with him. And what he did, he got me and Donnie, loaded us up, and took us out to Las Vegas and put us up in a room out there. And on the way out to Las Vegas, shortly out of Las Vegas, I heard him get on the phone with two of his friends. And he said, I got Rufus and Donnie, I'm smuggling them in. So what he would do, him and his buddies, they put us up in an apartment. And what they do, they even got a guy in there. They told us that he was homeless and asked us was it okay if, you know, he stayed with us, you know, for a while. And Donnie and I said, cool, yeah, he can stay here. But later on I found out he was there just to watch us. You know, he was old enough to buy alcohol. So he would go to the liquor store and buy alcohol for us. And so then they would come out, we'd drink all day, and about nighttime, Ryan and his friends would come around, and this was what really got scary to me, is it started getting, you know, a little dangerous. And what he would do, they bought us 2 black hooded sweatshirts, and they would we'd put those on at night. We'd go out and go around and paint over where gang graffiti had been painted. We'd spray paint over the gang graffiti, and that, you know, and spray paint over homeless people's sleeping bags. And I know for a fact, when I slept out on the ground in homeless, I would always have something. I mean, I'd have a big rock, I'd have a butter knife, I'd have something, a bottle or a bat or something, I mean, to protect myself, because it's dangerous hell out there. And I told Donnie, you know, eventually I said, Donnie, somebody's going to get hurt and it's going to be near you. And I said, I think Ryan might have something more sinister than planned for us. And I said, I'm ready to get out of here. Are you ready to get out of here? He said, yeah, when we going to leave? I said, now. So I had Barry's phone number. I got on the phone and called Barry. And I said, Barry, we're ready to get out of here. We need to come out here and get us. So I'll let Jim tell you this part.
So all of a sudden, I get a telephone call. It's Rufus. Barry, we're in Las Vegas. We're at this apartment complex. Can you write the address down? I said, sure. I said, is there anyone watching you there? Are you guarded? He says, yeah, but you got to get out here anyway and get us. I said, I'll be out there. So my cousin, Barry Plotkin, was somewhere in the audience. Anyway, he was at a attorney's convention, and he was staying at the Mirage Hotel. And I called him right away and said, I'm coming out there. Do you have a rent-a-car? He said, yes, I do. I said, well, great. I'll be right out there. So got on the first plane, end up in Las Vegas, get to the Mirage Hotel. It's Friday. Said to my cousin, hey, let's go. Let's go help these guys. Nah, let's wait a little longer. Let's go tomorrow, Saturday. Saturday comes, a beautiful day in Las Vegas. He goes, let's go by the pool. Let's just go enjoy ourselves. We'll do it later. Anyway, why do you want to help these bums? Why do you want to put ourselves in harm's way? Just call the cops. That'd be easy. I said, no, I promise these guys I'm going to save them, and we're going to do it. Finally, it's Sunday, the day that we're going to be leaving. I think we're leaving at 7 p.m. We're flying home. I said, we're doing it now. So we had some breakfast, and all of a sudden we started heading to the apartment where I had the address and location. All of a sudden my cousin complained about his stomach, every other issue. However, finally we get in front of the complex, and I said, keep the engine running, I'm going to go in there. And like a great 007, I go around the corner, I ring the bell, and I head around the corner. And all of a sudden Donnie comes out, sticks his head out, and I go, Donnie, where's Rufus? He says, he's inside. I said, where's the guy that's watching you? Oh, he's on the run to get some beer. I said, well, great, come on out. So got him outside, in front of the car. I said, let's go. My cousin goes, whoa, not in this car. I said, yes, he's going in. So got him in the car, and we start driving. And my cousin, well, where are we going? I said, well, take him with us to the airport. So I turned to Donnie in the back seat, and I said, Donnie, you have a wallet, you have some information, your driver's license, something? He said, no, I left it in the apartment. I said, you gotta be kidding. And so Rufus had the great idea. He said, listen, it's okay. Just drop us off at the Greyhound bus station, and we'll get home. So my cousin was relieved. We get to the bus station. I get out of the car, and I look at my wallet, and I go, oh my gosh, all I have is $100 bills. Anyway, I go to Rufus, I said, here's $300 bills. I want to make sure that you get to San Diego. Don't use it for other situations like getting drunk, but get to San Diego. I promise you one thing. There'll never be any more videotaping. You're safe with me.
You know, that surprised me when he pulled out the money he gave us, you know. But I'm saying we did, you know, have a beer. But we were ready to get the hell out of there because, you know, I had enough, Donnie had enough, and it was getting really scary. And so we catch the bus, no problems. We get back to San Diego, and we lived out on the other side of Mesa, California, there on Jackson Drive, right over there. We lived at an Arco station. And the guy at the Arco station, he would let us sleep back there because we were safe back there. You know, we kept the place clean. He liked us. But when we got, you know, shortly after we got there, next thing I know, there's all kind of reports showing up, camera crew, you know, and I'm saying, hey, I'm not putting up with this. So I got on the phone, I called Barry. I said, hey, Barry, you know what? You need to get over here. You need to do something about this because I don't know what's going on. And he showed up, and he saw what was going on.
It was amazing. There was cameras in your face, microphones like this. And I go, guys, we'll have a press conference later, but get in the car. So I get him in the car. I call the attorney. He said, listen, you got to get him into a motel. You got to get him away from all that. And so I brought him to the Easy 8 Motel on Pacific Highway. And Rufus and Donnie spent many a day there. I brought him breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And we finally met with the law firm at my cousin's office, and on that particular day, I had promised Rufus and Donnie, I said, you cannot drink, and they did. They honored that request. But Rufus didn't eat anything either. And so here we are at this conference table in my cousin's office. There's 3 attorneys, a publicist, we're going to be on Good Morning America, Today Show, all these things. And all of a sudden, as Brown Green, who's this tall, 63-year-old, incredible guy, tall, bow tie, he looks incredible, brilliant man, starts telling us about the case, how they're going to file the civil case tomorrow, talks to me, talks to Donnie Brennan, then he turns to Rufus, talks to Rufus about the case, and all of a sudden Rufus grabs my hand and starts shaking, and all of a sudden his head goes back, and he has a seizure. And so the office people called the paramedics, and Rufus went with the ambulance to Sharp Memorial Hospital. And later on that day, I went and picked him up. And the doctor came out, and he said, listen, he's a veteran. He should be seen at the VA hospital. But let me tell you something about him. He's got double vision. He got equilibrium. He may have some head trauma. But get him to the VA hospital. And I said, Roof, you got to do that. So I brought him back to the motel, which at that time became almost a scene out of hell for me, because every homeless person in Mesa seemed to be living there in Donnie's and Rufus' room. And I was getting really frustrated with all of this. So there were dogs there. It was really horrific. And finally, after I kicking them out numerous times, I finally get Rufus on the 3rd day to go to the VA hospital. And it's a long, long, arduous day. And he gets all these tests done. And the doctor looks at him. And a similar type of diagnosis is Rufus, you have double vision, equilibrium problems, may have some more trauma, but you're going to be dead in a year if you don't get yourself in a program. We have an incredible program here at the VA hospital. And you're 1 day sober. All you need is 2 more days. You understand that? And Rufus heard that many times, that he may die on the streets. But on this particular day, I get him in my car, and I'm fed up. I'm really annoyed, not only with Rufus, but with Donnie. In this whole situation, I kind of said, you know, I've had it. But I decided I'm going to do something different this time. I got Rufus in my car. Instead of driving to the motel room, I decided to do a different route, and I go in front of the Merkel mortuary. And I said to Rufus, hey, get out. He goes, why? Who died? I said, doesn't matter who died. Come with me. So we walk in, and I said, this is the deal. You have a choice of any casket. Took my American Express card out. Hope he wasn't going to get a huge expensive casket. But I said, either the casket or the program. No more the motel. It's out of the question. So you got to do it? And Rufus finally said, well, let me think about it. I said, no. Are you going to do it? Here it is. Choice. He said, yeah, okay, I'll do it. Second, third day were a struggle, but Rufus ended up overcoming it. Go to the VA hospital, he takes a urine test, blood test. He's in the program. I am so relieved. I'm so excited. And he'll tell you more about the program. It was tough. But on the third day, he said, Barry, you know, I wasn't very learned. Could you get me a big word dictionary? And I said, yeah, absolutely. So I got this big word dictionary, and I also brought my favorite book by Mitch Albom, Tuesday with Maury, and gave it to Rufus, along with a pack of cigarettes, carton of cigarettes. I never knew how expensive cigarettes were until I started buying them. It's a horrible thing to get, but boy, I tell you, it's twice as expensive too. But anyway, you know, I gave him that, and Rufus was really thankful, but it's really tough on him because of the fact that you go through the DTs, and the program is tough. So let me hear a little about the program.
It's a really tough program. It's very intense. You know, just take, for example, first thing in the morning at 7 o'clock, you have to get up and go do exercise. And I'm like, you know, I've seen people there in the morning doing jumping jacks, like, and we do sit-ups and leg raises, and people be laying on the floor going to sleep, and the instructor say, hey, you know what, you can go to sleep, but don't snore. You know, you seem like you never had a free minute. The only time I really enjoyed was when we could go downstairs to the rec room and we could play bingo. And then it seemed like nearly every time, right in the middle of the bingo, and to come over the loudspeaker, all patients and ADTP report back to the second floor. And you know, and it's so intense. I mean, and I can't sleep. I'm not eating. You know, I'm having cold night sweats, and I'm thinking about some crazy things. And I'm up walking the floors at night. And I told Barry later on, one night, I want to go back a little bit. You know, I have 5 children. I have 4 boys, 1 daughter. My daughter's the oldest, and she's still my little girl. But I promised her that when she went to the first grade, her first day of school, that I would take her to school. I promised that to her. And I had joined the military, and it just so happened that I had to leave to catch a plane to Fort Leonard, Missouri, the same day she had to go to school. You know, so I missed that, and it hurt me. And I thought about that, and along with other kids. And one night when I'm laying in my bunk, I'm miserable. I'm going crazy. I don't know if I'm hallucinating or what I'm doing. I'm laying there, and I look down at the end of my bed, and I see my little daughter standing with her hand out. And I look at her, and then her face fades into the face of Jesus. And like I said, it scared me. And I sat up on the side of my bed, and I put my face in my hands. And I decided right then, you know, that my children were more important than alcohol. And that was a big turning point. You know, like I said, when I asked Barry about the Bible, and I was in AA, going to a lot of AA meetings, and I know it said that you had to find a higher power. And there was times when I lived on the street, I used to look at and cuss him out. You know, I mean, why are you doing this to me? Why me? You know, why me thing? You know, seemed like I thought the world revolved around me. But I made a decision that day, and my life started getting a little better. It would get a little better, and that's what I told Barry the next day. And I don't think he could believe it himself.
You know, Rufus said, Barry, give me a Bible. I go, a Bible? What type of Bible? He gets you an Old Testament. He said, no, give me the Bible. I said, okay, so I brought him a Bible. And but it was amazing. He graduated that program, 28 days. Then you choose another program. So we choose VBSD. But at that time it was called Vietnam Vets of San Diego. And now it's Veterans Village of San Diego. But Rufus went through all these programs, which were, how many months?
I went through 29 months.
29 months of rehab. And then he says to me, Barry, two things. Can you get me an apartment? And I said, absolutely. So I contacted an old friend of mine, Alan Getz, and I said, listen, he had just bought a studio building of apartments in Oceanside. I said, can you rent to my friend Rufus? He says, if he's your friend, I'll rent to him. So had a studio apartment. Then Rufus said to me, what about me going to college? And I said, you know, that'd be great. You know, we went to the 11th grade, it's the highest he's gone, college, fabulous. So we went to Palomar College. He enrolled. And he ended up with 3.6 grade point average. And I was thrilled. And then all of a sudden the civil case got settled. It was going to go to trial, but eventually got settled. But then Rufus again asked me, can I go work for you? And he did. But this was quite an ordeal. And we'll tell you about this ordeal, and then we're going to show you our last little video clip.
Yeah, I lived in Oceanside, California. And, you know, I can't drive. I got double vision. And so that you know, driving was out of the question. So I took public transportation. I would get up like 4:30 in the morning and get ready, and I'd catch the bus about 6 minutes after 5 in Oceanside, and I'd go to the Oceanside Transit Center, catch the coaster down to San Diego, catch the trolley out to La Mesa, then turn around and catch a bus back to Barry's place. 3 hours on a good day. And then work 5 hours and turn around and ride 3 hours back. And you know, there were times I told a woman earlier, if you miss our public transportation, if you miss something 1 minute, that throws you off a whole hour or more. And there were times when I'd get back to my apartment, sometimes I'd have to get up to a transit center in Oceanside and I'd miss my last bus, so I'd have to walk about a mile. And which wasn't, you know, too bad for me. But I get back to my apartment, and I walk into my apartment, and, you know, I just take a look around, and I look up, and I say, you know what, thank you, God, you know, at least I got a place over my head. And, you know, I'd give me a shower, give me a little something to eat, go to bed, and start all over again, you know, and I think today that is so important. You know, everybody deserves a roof over their head. I really do.
A street bum ridiculed on video becomes a success. When you hear his story, you too will say, you're amazing.
Yeah! Bum fights was one of the most disturbing videos ever. The unwitting star was this toothless man known as Rufus the Skunk Bum. Rufus would do anything for a beer, running headfirst into milk crates and into metal signs, even getting his knuckles tattooed with bum fight. He was diving into this dumpster, scrounging for his next meal. But just look at where we found Rufus Hanna today.
The new Rufus.
Wow, what an amazing transformation. Rufus looks dapper in a pinstripe suit as he walks to work. Yes, he works. So how did Rufus go from bum to businessman? Rufus was living on the streets of San Diego when real estate mogul Barry Soper found him rummaging through a dumpster at an apartment complex he owned. Barry got Rufus sobered up, took him to the dentist for new teeth, and then bought him a suit and tie. He even hired him to help manage one of his buildings. I found him in my dumpster. Now he's my assistant manager. What could be better than that? But Rufus is reminded of bum fights every day because the tattoos are still on his hands. He gets emotional as he views the videos he says for the first time.
It hurts to watch these videos.
Rufus recently got married, and he's co-written a book about his life called A Bum Deal. Now Rufus walks with his head high because he's no longer the same man who did stunts for a drink.
And so, Rufus, we think you're amazing. Coming up next, the tough guy.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you guys very much. Another little housekeeping thing, if you guys wouldn't mind standing up and folding your chairs off to the side, we're going to get Barry and Rufus set up here to do a signing, and we thank you all for coming out this evening.
Mr. Soper, is that cousin of yours, that courageous cousin in Las Vegas, is he in the room right now?
Somewhere in the room. Hold on one quick second. Hold on one quick second. Do you guys want to do a question and answer? Sure. Okay. Yeah. They want to do a question and answer. Have a seat again. Sorry about that. Okay.
Well, before we take some questions, I want to thank Robert. He just disappeared. Yeah, any questions? That's good. Yes.
How old are your children and what's your relationship like with them now?
That's interesting. I'm glad you asked that question. You know, after I got sober, I began to get in touch with my children. My daughter, I was talking about Stephanie, she's 35. Her brother, Rufus III, he's 33. I have a son, Eric, 27 years old. I have a son, Chad, 25. And my youngest, Chet, is 24. Chad and Chet, when I got in touch with them, I was talking on the phone with Chad, and I heard a woman in the background, and, you know, I just assumed it was their mother, Carol. And Chad asked me, he said, do you want to talk to Mom? She's sitting right here. And I said, well, you know, there'll be a chance. I'll talk to her later. I said, right now I'm making arrangements, you know, to come down and see you two boys. So I did. I went down, made arrangements to fly down and see two boys. And actually I stayed at their mother, you know, apartment, Carol. And while I was there, you know, kind of rekindled some things, you know, and things were pretty good, actually. And so I asked her, I said, well, Carol, would you like to come back out to California, you know, and live with me and see how you like it? And she said, sure, I love California. I've never been there. So she came back out with me, and in about 2 months, you know, I asked her again, well, how do you like, you know, our relationship? How do you like living with me in California? She said, I love it. I said, well, will you marry me? Will you be my wife? She said, I've been waiting 25 years to hear that. You know, I have a wonderful relationship with my children. You know, we don't always see the eye on things, but still I have a good relationship. And I found out now I have 3 grandchildren, you know, and that's great. I've been able to see them. And one of my grandkids, Ethan, you know, he's not good to get attached to anybody, but it seemed like when I met him, you know, right away, he was up in my lap, you know, right in my face, talking to me. I have a really good relationship with him, and I have a really good life.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, Rufus, I'm wondering what your view is on why the facilities that are present in San Diego don't take care of the homeless problem, and why don't people who are on the street avail themselves of the institutions that are here? Is it because there's not enough beds, or is it because the people don't want to go there, or what are your views?
I think it's a combination. One thing is, you know, you just don't get right off the street into a program. I mean, they got a waiting list, and then some places, you know, of course, the insurance. And again, some people just don't want to get into a program. They don't like going by the rules. You know, their rules. Everybody has to, you know, go by rules. And you know, I do think, you know, I can say this till I turn blue in the face, you know. But I believe the main thing is some sort of housing. You know, you need a foundation. That's what I got. You know, I got a foundation, and for various reasons, there's people that plain don't want to get off the street. They like the way they're living, and there's other people who just can't.
Do most of the temporary shelters require you to be drug and alcohol free before you get in there? Is that
Yes, yes, yes. And that is, you know, of course, that's a big issue. You know, and they, you know, most people just, you know, don't want to do it. And you have to have that. I told people too, you know, that has to be first. Any kind of facility there's some places that test you regularly every time you come in, you know, and that's true, you know, like a lot of places.
Jerry?
Hey, Rufus, could you give an overview about how you've worked on behalf of the homeless, how you've been an advocate for them?
Well, you know, with Barry, when I first got to my apartment in Oceanside, I got a computer, my first computer, and I got on a computer, and naturally, what do you think I looked up? Bum fight. I got looking at that, but what shocked the hell out of me was teenage kids were taking baseball bats, setting homeless people on fire, and actually pushing one lady over in the river, drowning her. And so that pissed me off, and me, you know, and I was, you know, part of that video, and that upset me. So I got in touch with the National Coalition for the Homeless, and I got invited, my first speaking engagement, I got invited to up at
USC.
Yeah, USC, and we spoke up there. And then I've been traveling around to different colleges and schools and speaking. And we got Bonnie Jemanis drew up a law, legislation, and we tried to get that passed, you know, to add homeless to the hate crime. We've been speaking to schools, and that's great. You know, we actually, I think one of the things is we spoke right down here at a children's school in La Jolla, and other schools. And you'd be surprised what a little 7 or 8 year old, 9-year-old kid would ask you. We spoke at one school, and one of the kids, she was sitting there waving her hand, and finally I asked her, I said, "Okay, you," she said, "When you lived on the street, did you ever think about committing suicide?" You know, this is coming from a, like 8, 9-year-old. And I told her, I said, "Yes, I did, you know, nearly every day." Because, you know, I thought that would be my fate, dying on the street, you know, homeless. And, but, you know, I said I never acted upon it.
One of the amazing things that we did is Gary invited us to go to the Salvation Army. He had, one time he had got 135 sleeping bags. The next time he got shoes, REI shoes, to give out, but he wanted us to talk. It was amazing to me because after my discussion, it was almost like Moses coming back. All of a sudden, all of these homeless people came to Rufus and asked questions. But the second time when we gave the REI shoes, I looked in the audience, and there were a lot of young homeless people, a lot of young women and young men. It was kind of frightening after you started talking to them, how frightening it is, how close some people are to becoming homeless. And it's sad. In our environment right now, in our economy, it's tough out there. So, Dave?
Yes, Rufus, your good friend Donnie that you beat up so badly, what's his condition and what's his status now?
You know, I feel for Donnie. Really, you know, I really feel for Donnie. He's my best friend. He's still drinking. I haven't seen him in probably a couple months or talked to him, maybe even longer. But the reports I get, you know, that he's still drinking pretty heavy. At one time, he told me he's just going to knock off the heavy stuff, you know, and drink beer. But now I hear back, you know, he's, you know, hitting the vodka pretty good. And from hearing, he's not doing too good. But he told me, you know, he said, "Rufus, I'm really proud of you. You know, you quit drinking." And he said, "I'm really proud of you." And he told me, he said, "But I'm just not ready." And that's the whole thing in a nutshell right there. You have to be ready, and you got to want it. There's a lot of help, because I know, now I do. But when I lived out on the street, you know, I'm a man, I said, you know what, I don't need your help, I can do this myself. That's the way I felt. And once I began getting help, and you know, I had a lot of help getting where I'm at. Barry was a tremendous help. I got a lot of help to get where I was at. But, you know, back to Donnie, he's still drinking.
And I think the sad part about bum fights, you look at the collateral damage. I mean, Donnie, because of that incident you saw there, his leg was shattered. He'll never be able to walk properly. Rufus was double vision, will never be able to drive a vehicle. And it's a sad situation. And, you know, these people who perpetrated it essentially got put on probation. They violated probation by working in a homeless shelter. They forged some documents, ended up going to potentially jail, but essentially in Descanso, it was kind of a minor type sentence. Any other questions before? Yes.
I usually give a buck to the homeless on the street corner and whatnot. Some of my friends say, "No, you're just encouraging them." I say, "So what?" I mean, if they're happy for a moment, what do you?
Well, first of all, Mel, you're a kind person anyway, and that's really great. I don't, because I don't want to enable them. I'd rather give them a sandwich. But, Ruth, you know better than I.
Well, you know, I still do it from time to time, not as often as I used to, because like I said, when I have two friends that live on the street there, and one is a veteran, and I tell him, I said, you know, you're one of the lucky ones, Ross. You're one of the lucky ones, because you just don't walk off the street and go into a program, like I said. And Ross, being a veteran, I told him, I said, you're lucky, Ross. You can get into the hospital, go through that program, and you can get the help you need. I used to give Ross money, get a couple of beers in the morning. And one morning I had him a couple of dollars to give him a beer, and he looked at me and said, thanks for the free, thanks out, man, you're helping me. I said, you know what, Ross, I'm not helping you. But go back to the dollar, you know, and also say, you know, you got to feel like, you know, whatever's in your heart, you know, you got to feel like that. But, you know, still I think, you know, everybody likes some money in the pocket. You know, it seems like if you got money in your pocket, you see things and you don't buy them, but if you don't have any money in your pocket, there's all kinds of things you want to buy. You know, like again, you know, whatever, you know, is in your heart. But food is always good for them too.
We'll take one more question. Any more questions? Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you so very much. You're all so kind.